Welcome to episode 2 of the Virtual Rehab Bros podcast, where Dr. Kyle Richmond and myself, Dr. Mitch Israel, bro out on the topic of growing on social media with a heavy influence on Instagram. So we can teach you guys how to grow and leverage that into an online business so you can start to practice part-time. And there's a huge snowball effect that will unravel as we continue this podcast journey together. But we got a hot topic. At least I think it's a little spicy. Kyle, we're going to go over something that we probably get asked the most, and it's about hashtags and what time of day to post.
I love it. Hey, like you said though in the beginning here, everyone wants to just see a way to work more part-time and do all this social media stuff. I love that.
Yeah, hey, it's the wave, man. I mean, I never thought I would be doing it, but here we are a year later, and it is opening up some doors I didn't even think were possible.
I agree. But to the topic, let's start with the hashtags. I get asked all the time. I honestly didn't know much about hashtags to begin with. I'm like, I use them sparingly, but I think it's because I started on Instagram and like realistically really started towards the end of 2022. So within the last year and a half, 2 years is relatively new. I don't think hashtags are all that important in terms of you don't need to spend hours researching hashtags, putting 100 hashtags. I personally use maybe 3 or 4 that are relative to what I'm posting. You can see your insights, and I know you've touched on this before. What do you think with the insights on it all? Because you get a little bit from Instagram on your posting. You get, so much engagement from the explore page, your profile, hashtags, other. I don't see hashtags as much, but maybe for a new page, that could be important.
Yeah. So just to clarify, I think most people listening to this will know what a hashtag is, but
I think so.
it's basically using the pound sign or the actual hashtag.
Do people know what that is anymore?
I was going to say,
people know what a pound sign is? I don't think so.
I'm not looking for comments on this saying, hey, what's a hashtag? Basically, it puts a tag of a specific thing that, or basically it's tagging a specific thing that you want to put on your post. Yeah, similar to like a category. I use hashtags. Do I think they're a waste of time? Maybe not necessarily. I mean, if we're talking, this is 2024. Everybody knows that hashtags were important at one point in time, probably like when Twitter was still Twitter, back in the day. But hashtags are not a way for your posts to go viral, especially nowadays. It's not like back in 2019 where we were the first to hashtag a topic and then it blows up. That just doesn't happen anymore. But personally, I use hashtags still. I use anywhere from 6 to 15, depending on the post. I don't spend time on it. I'm not like, before I post, I'm like, oh my God, what hashtags am I going to use? I don't even think about it. For me, I actually just have like a notes app. So let's say I'm making a shoulder post. I just go to my shoulder hashtags that are saved, copy, paste, takes not even 10 seconds, and I throw them on there. So is it a waste of time? I don't know. It's only 10 extra seconds. And then if you look at the insights when you post something, you can actually see where people are coming from now. So every now and then, like it's usually number 4 or number 5. It says from hashtags as far as how people found your post. And there'll be some in there. So if you're just starting to grow, hey, an extra 14 to 50 people that are finding you from a hashtag could be a future customer. So that's where I don't think it's a waste of time. It could help you find someone that's in your avatar or your niche that we discovered, last episode. So listen to that if you haven't already. But yeah, that's kind of my general thoughts on it. What about you?
Well, so first off, let's clarify too. Do you use hashtags on all platforms? I primarily use them I use them mostly on Instagram. I don't do much on Facebook, so I can't say on that. YouTube, a few, because when I'm doing shorts, it's only for shorts. You don't put really them on full-length videos, the long form. And then TikTok, I do believe people use them on TikTok, but I think the biggest thing to clarify with hashtags is when you use an app like Instagram or TikTok, you don't search for a specific video all the time, especially on Instagram. You're not searching for back pain videos. Use the hashtag to find that. Now on YouTube, people can search exact words and phrases, and that's how they categorize them. But I think that's the only time that people do it on Instagram is they'll search for low back pain or neck pain, and they search a hashtag. But I do tell people, how often is that really happening versus them just finding good pages and enjoying that content. Not a lot of people are pulling up Instagram and going for a specific topic and looking for all the people on that. They just find the one person they trust and use it from there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good point from like a search engine standpoint. I, I've never searched for anything on Instagram or TikTok. Usually it's Google or YouTube. So
Right.
I could see some validity there, but YouTube's more key and Google are more keyword
Yes.
opposed to actual hashtags. So it depends. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that I think you can follow a specific hashtag, like hashtag
Yeah.
low back pain, which I think could be useful if you're doing research on, hey, what kind of content do I want to post? Just getting ideas. But I've never done that from my personal experience. I never even thought about hashtags. It's something that's like so easy to me now that I just copy and paste it, add to the end of the post. Does it make a difference? Do I think any hashtag got me to where I'm at right now as far as growth? Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. But that will compile. So now I've been doing this a year. If I throw a hashtag on every post, that's 5 to 7 posts per week, and that gets 10 extra people. I mean, that starts to compound over a long period of time. So again,
Right.
if you're just starting to grow, I think it could be a useful tool, but don't bank on, oh, what's the perfect hashtag to go viral? Uh, the algorithms are smart. Good content's going to go
Well,
viral,
people
not
use the
a
hashtag.
specific hashtag.
Right. People use the hashtag like they're like, oh, hashtag explore page, hashtag for you, hashtag. They're just trying to find the viral ones. Use them to categorize what you're working on. Shoulder specific stuff, hip specific stuff, chiropractic specific stuff. Don't just try to use hashtags to game the system like you're going to do hashtag 2024, hashtag January. I don't think that's the case for anything because that's not going to, I don't think it's ever proven to make someone go viral. And God forbid you went viral off one hashtag. I don't think that's going to help your case anyways. It's just maybe to categorize, maybe gets a few more eyes in your post. But I think a lot of people stress over that way too much. Oh, I didn't have the perfect hashtags. That's why my post didn't do well. Your post probably didn't well because the content wasn't great or a bunch of other things. But I don't think a hashtag will make or break you. It can just maybe help give you a slight better edge. And we're talking a 0.5% difference, maybe. If it takes you 10 seconds to write out 3 hashtags, if it's gonna debilitate you and you can't do it, don't use them. I see people say don't use them. You're fine either way, but don't stress over it.
I would say if it takes any calories thinking about it, then just don't
Not worth
even
it.
do it. Don't even do it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, if you're like me, I've been posting consistently for a while. When I first started, I thought hashtags were necessary. So I already built up a database. It's not like it took me that much time. So if you're one of those, like I said, you're in that growing I mean, we're always growing, but you're in that early growth stage where, hey, if I get a couple extra followers by using a specific hashtag, I think that could be worth it then. But if you're like, I got my post ready, oh, what hashtags? I can't think of any. I'll think about it later. It's like, no, just hit post. That's the algorithm's going to push the content if it's good. And if you're just starting, it's probably not good. We touched on that last time. It's okay. We're growing. But yeah, don't if you talk to someone who's been doing this for years, sure, they're probably like, yeah, I was the first one to use hashtag functional range conditioning and I got a
Right.
10K followers from it. Yeah, that was probably like 3, 4 years ago. That's not happening anymore.
Yeah, I remember doing that. I used to put FRC for all my things. I'm like, I don't think I've thought of that anymore. Even like trends, people do certain trends, whatever, like the newest dances, whatever. Maybe that helps categorize it. But for you and we're really speaking to rehab clinicians and professionals. Like, I don't think it's going to make or break it. In the end, it's like it depends, I guess you could say. But I wouldn't stress. You'll have your gurus out there tell you got to use the perfect hashtags, and that's why you're not growing. You and I both know. I've done posts with hashtags, without hashtags, 100 hashtags with certain. I don't think it's ever made a difference. One of my viral posts that went viral didn't have hashtags. I was like, oh, and then one goes viral and had hashtags. So I think it's a toss up realistically.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Again, if you're wasting time thinking about perfect hashtags, just don't even post it or just don't even put them on there. The only thing that's important is posting consistently and making better content. And then once your content's better, that's what's going to grow you more, go quote unquote viral or viral for you. So, yeah, and I think it's important to note that we have two different strategies. This is why we have two unique perspectives on growing on social media, because we almost do we're in the same niche, but we almost do things opposite and we still end up with results. So I don't know if I've ever posted without putting at least one hashtag. So that's me personally. But again, I just go to a notes app, copy and paste 6 to 10, 15. I don't even know how many there are. Again, I don't even think about it anymore. It's there. It takes no time. I'm on autopilot. So if I don't have to cognitively think about it, I'm not wasting any calories towards it, then I would say use them. For sure, use them. Or your perspective is, hey, I don't even know if I use them 50% of the time and my content still does good.
I did today. I posted a hip one. I just went, all right, hip mobility, hip stretch, hip strength, done. It took me 5 seconds. The first 3 that can come to my mind. If I think of another one that might have some benefit, cool. There's times because I have it like saved as a draft the night before, and maybe I forgot to put them that night, and I post it, and I don't think twice about it. So, but you touched on the next big thing is, well, guess what? Consistency. And what do people ask us always now is the time of day. When do I post? Does that matter? Because, okay,
what a
now,
transition. This is only our second episode.
We're trying here, I've been studying.
What a smooth transition. Yeah, so everybody asks hashtags. Of course, that's on the Mount Rushmore of things people ask. And then, of course,
we should do that.
Yeah, hey,
you ever seen that with the part of my take as they do the Mount Rushmore? We got to do a Mount Rushmore.
Oh, dude. We might have to wait till summertime when it's Mount Rushmore season. But
we'll do Mount Rushmore season.
We'll bookmark that one.
Okay.
Time of day is definitely on there. People think if you post at a specific time of day, you're more likely to get more reach, go viral. I think you and I actually are pretty like dead even on our strategy for time of day. But why don't you tee people up with what you think, and then I'll add my 2 cents after.
Okay, so we're going to sound like a broken record here, but at the end of the day, the best time to post is what you are most consistent with, because if you're posting it like, oh man, all my users say they're on, Instagram at 1 p.m. is the most effective time, but you can only post on there every third day because you're working or you have something going on, it doesn't matter. My actually insights tell me the best time is at like 9 or 10 o'clock, but I post between 6:30, 7:30 a.m. in the morning. Why? Because I don't start work usually till 7 or later. I'm always up at that time. I give myself a window, but everybody knows by the time they wake up and check their phones, I'm on there. I'm one of the first ones on their page because I'm always consistently posting. They know what to expect. If I go from, like, if your time is 8 p.m., but you post 8 p.m. every single night, there's always new content to be had out there. You just have to make sure you're always doing it versus 8 a.m. one day, 3 p.m. the next day. Like, also to note, you can post multiple times in a day, but your main thing should be finding the first thing you can do consistently. Because if you know there's a time in your day, let's say it's 9 o'clock at night, every time 9 o'clock at night happens, you're on the couch ready to post. That's fine. But now you've created the consistency that we always need. So I've seen people that post super late at night. I've seen people that post at 3 a.m. and have success, but they do it every single day consistently. I also think that you can schedule these things. Do you use the scheduling software at all?
Never once.
I've done it a few times. It's posted on accident for me, and I don't like that because I think there's an issue. And if you post on Instagram and delete it and then post again, I do think it hurts you. I don't know why. I've done it and I've had terrible success. That's maybe just a myth at this point. But
you're shadow banned, bro.
Yeah, you get these weird like engagement things. But at the end of the day, you just need to be able to be on there and use it, because there's a whole nother thing we can get into about engagement afterwards. Some people do, some people don't. At the end of the day, find the time that you can consistently post. It doesn't matter what time it is. People do it at noon. My logic was I post in the morning because guess what? What's the first thing you probably do in the morning within the first 30 minutes? You pick up your phone, you open social media while you're going to the bathroom, getting ready, eating breakfast. People do it when they're driving. I don't recommend that, but everyone's on their phones at some point in the first at least hour of their day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I originally did it, and because I always can do it. I'm up at that time. I'm an idiot, and I don't really sleep past 7:30. So there it is.
Yeah, we're gonna sound like a broken record, but yeah, the number one answer is whatever time you could be consistent at. You and I are both morning posters, which I'm sure if we both looked at our time of day when people are on, the morning's probably the worst. But actually, my argument would be like if I looked, I think I looked right before, and it was like 3 p.m. is like when most of my followers are on or whatever. Everybody gets the same insights. So, how many people are posting around that 3 p.m.? So, from my thought process is actually there's more competition when people
Yes.
are on. So, I would rather post when there's less people on. And if I build that consistent strategy, the people that follow me know I post at that same time every day. So, they almost start to anticipate, oh, hey, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. What was Mitch's post today? Like, let's see if it's going to help
Right.
me with my gym warm up or something like that. Because I'm a big morning poster. Make my coffee as I'm drinking it. I already have my stuff edited the day before, and then I
Mhm.
just go through. I'm like, oh, this is the one I'm posting today. Quick caption, and then send it, and then I forget about it, and then I check my notifications throughout the day.
Right. And this is back when Instagram was a chronological thing. What that means is when you opened up your phone, you saw the stuff that was posted just then and there. Now it's an algorithm based thing where it's only really people you engage with the most are at the top of your feed. So just because I posted 10 minutes ago, if you don't engage with me, it's not at the top chronologically. You can filter that now. I don't know if you're aware of that, but you can filter to see chronological.
Mm-mm.
You tap, so you can do that, but most people don't. First, they don't know it's there, and two, most people don't care to go that way. But that's what Instagram used to be. So time did matter because you wanted people to be on their phones refreshing, and then you're at the top. That's not the case anymore. So it comes down to consistency. And if I post at 7 a.m. and you don't open your phone till 10, the algorithm knows that you engage my stuff the most. It's going to be at the top, even if I post it 3 hours prior. And like you said, the competition thing, if everybody's posting at 3 p.m., because that's when everyone's on the app, well, just because they're on the app doesn't mean they're always scrolling on their feed. They could be answering messages, just scrolling in the reels. They might even go to their homepage. So I think it just really
Yeah,
depends.
yeah, and you're kind of getting ahead of everybody else too, because the most important thing for going viral or getting more reach is your engagement rate, not necessarily the amount of views, but how much engagement does it get, right away. So if you're the
Yes.
only one that's posting at that time and people know to look for your content at that time and they engage with it right away, by the time that person gets on at noon, you already have more reach, and then the more engagement that post has, it's definitely going to end up in their feed, especially if they regularly engage with your content.
Right.
um, I mean, this isn't rocket science, so as long as you're posting, and I would say just post at the same time every day, get people in a pattern of when you're going to post. If it's like on Mondays, people love it are on at noon, and then Saturdays they're on at 6 p.m. It's like, who don't try to mix and match. Just do the same thing every single day, and then it'll
Right.
become a routine, and then it's a habit, and then you're not even thinking about it, and then that's when you start to grow because you're just consistently posting each day.
Well, I think people are waiting for us to pull up this like flow chart of like, here's the perfect strategy of you're going to hit this hashtag at this time. It's not like that. It's really not as like rocket science as people think this is. Like there's this, Mitch and I cracked the code on the exact stuff. No, we know good practice, like things that are going to help, but there's no, because I wish one day we compare our social media strategies. You and I are on the app different times, different amounts. The engagement's different. The amount of messages we're getting is different. We're both growing.
Mm-hmm.
We post different forms of content. We
Yep.
Everything's like almost different, but it follows the same principles. That's the whole thing we're doing this podcast for, is to teach people these principles. There is no exact. We can help you with the like little details, which those things do matter over time, but it's the principles, just like anything. All of these people in practice as chiropractors or PTs, you're treating off principles. All this little fancy modalities and BS does not matter as much as you knowing your principles.
Yeah, if you know how to diagnose an issue, as long as you know what treatments work best for that diagnosis, then you're going to be just fine, right? But if you're just throwing random shit out there, pardon my French, hoping something sticks, it's not a very good way of practicing, not only in actual practice, clinical practice, but also your social media practice at the same time.
Agreed. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, like I on YouTube Shorts, I post mine at night just because usually I don't want to be the person that's on the like I go from Instagram right away to Facebook to TikTok to YouTube. I post at Instagram in the morning. I post at YouTube at night. It's the same thing. Usually I'm posting on YouTube the thing I'm going to post the next day on Instagram because it's already just like I edited that night before and it's ready to go. Again, but I'm consistent. I post it at between 9 and 10 o'clock at night when I'm laying in bed. It takes me 30 seconds to just put it on there, put an audio, quick caption, and it's done. I don't think about it. And slowly, guess what? Consistently, I've posted a couple hundred videos and I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Great. And it's putting minimal effort in that. I've focused. And when you and I basically talking all this stuff, it's mostly on Instagram. We haven't dabbled in a lot. We're slowly getting to YouTube. I know you do way more on Facebook. I do nothing on TikTok.
Way more is an exaggeration. It's just posting the same thing.
You post more on there. Like I don't use TikTok. I'll do TikTok for like 2 weeks, and then I have thoughts on TikTok. I don't think it's great for growing in the same sense as you could do with other platforms, but that's for another time.
And each platform, and maybe that's what we'll dive into next episode, wink, wink, is we'll talk about the different platforms and what audience seems to be on that platform. And depending on that, that might actually meet who your avatar is,
right?
Or it may not. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Facebook, you probably got more older geriatric type individuals on there. Instagram, I would say somewhere in the middle, and then TikTok, it's like, are you even legal age to be liking this post? You know,
That's so accurate.
Yeah, we'll dive more into those concepts in the future. But I know this is only the second episode. I'm teeing this up that if you just listen, I think we've harped on it twice now. It's just consistency, and everybody's different. Everybody's lives are different. Everybody can make the time if you schedule it in, but whatever that time is for you, just execute and then consistently execute and then keep getting better. Like you never have to listen to another episode of this podcast. I hate to say this out loud because each topic is probably going to be, does it pass the who cares test? As long as you're consistently posting and trying to make each post better every single time, you're going to grow. It's just inevitable unless you can't realize your content sucks, which is probably another topic. If you're not growing and you've been posting consistently for a long time, then the content's the issue. But
that's what everyone does, right? They're looking for these little things to game it. All right, hashtags, time of posting, the text I'm putting out, all these little things, but it's like the meat and potatoes of it, the core of what you're doing is not great content. You can throw all the fancy things on there, do all the trends, and it's not going to matter. You could pick like the trending audio, the right camera angle, but if the actual content is not great or it does not look, it just looks terrible, that doesn't matter. That doesn't go viral, and you know that. People just don't want to even look at their content to begin with and say it's not great. I'm embarrassed if I post any of my first things I posted. It looked horrendous. But I got better over time. I know people that still do the same thing. Like, oh, this is how I've always done it. Like, they'll hit record in their video, and the first 5 seconds of them coming and sitting down and getting in frame, and it's like they don't edit things. They don't do any of it. So, again, look at what you're doing. These little things we're going to address are the things that could help. It's the 1% stuff that could get you. If you're already doing everything that you need to do, it might help get you slightly to the next level, but it's not going to be what makes you go viral. It's not going to be what makes you grow to where we're at.
Yep. Amen. And it's just realizing you're going to be terrible. You are terrible. We were both terrible at some point.
How about your first patient?
Yeah, exactly. I don't even think I'm great at this point, but I'm still I'm not just staying complacent. I'm still looking for that next edge. So then that growth continues. As soon as you stay complacent, that's when you reach like 10,000 followers, and then you just plateau and you don't grow from there. It's because you don't change your strategy. It might have worked for you to get to that point, but if you don't evolve, survival of the fittest, baby.
Right. Hey, what happened when you hit 10,000 followers? Nothing.
Gosh.
Like nothing changed. And that's when it goes like, oh, I hit 10K. I got there. You're like, That's
It looks
great. Keep
cool.
evolving. It looks cool, but guess what? It doesn't change much of anything. You have to keep going, keep progressing, because you are, again, the longer Instagram social media is around, you're gonna have more and more accounts hit that 10,000 mark. Well, guess what? Now we need to chase the 100,000, the 250, because more people are elevating, and you're going to see a lot more people have 10,000. Great. Now what puts you different from those 10,000? You need to get to the higher mark, which you have to keep progressing. You don't just, it's not linear. Just because you hit 10,000 doesn't mean, oh, you'll hit 15, you'll hit 20. I see a lot of people tap out after 10 because they were at 8 forever, 9 forever, and they start losing because now their content didn't evolve. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, we'll dive more into those topics, but let's wrap this episode in a bow. So, hashtags, you and I have similar thoughts, but me, I use them again. If you want to use them, create a notes app. If you're in a specific niche like
Yeah.
pelvic floor PT or whatever it may be, then maybe you just use those hashtags
Yeah.
on every single post. Just don't even think about it. Just copy paste, copy paste,
Right.
copy paste. Again, if you're thinking about it, it's a waste of time because the only thing that's going to grow you is better content.
Yes.
And you don't even have to use them. You don't use them very often, and look where you're at. So,
Yeah.
hashtags, does it pass the who cares test? For me, it's kinda, but not really. And for you, it's an absolute no. And then what about time of day? How important is the time of day you post?
Yep. The time doesn't matter. It's about the consistency. I've seen great pages that post at noon, great pages that post at 8 p.m., great pages that post at 6 a.m. It's just you got to do it all the time. Because if you can't do it consistently, if you can't always post at 6 a.m. and you're posting sporadically, guess what? You went down from posting 6 days a week to 2 days a week because you couldn't get that 6 a.m. time, so you stopped. All right, whatever. Find the
Mm-hmm.
time you can do it. Everyone's got, and I don't want to hear the excuses, I don't have time. You have a 10-minute block in your schedule every single day, probably around the same time. And notice that I said between 6:30 and 7:30 a.m. There's buffer. I've posted 6:15, I've posted 7:45. I'm just making sure I'm not getting lazy and posting it now 6 p.m. at night instead. That's a huge difference. All of a sudden now they're looking, oh, there is no post that day. I think it throws more things off. So
Mm-hmm.
biggest
Yeah,
thing, guys,
that's
is it depends. All the stuff, it
and,
depends. It's not black
and
and white.
one more thing with the timing that you mentioned. It's like if you're trying to stick to that specific time and then you miss, well, I'll do it tomorrow. And then you fall off the wagon and then you don't post the next day. And then you post for 3 days in a row and then you miss 3 weeks and be like, oh, social media doesn't work. This is a waste of time. No, just do it right.
Yeah, I
But
agree. I think we
best
nailed it.
practices,
I think we nailed it.
best practices, social media edition.
What are we hitting on next? What's the next one? Can we tee it up?
Next, actually, do you want to go into the different platforms and we'll rank them what we think, especially when it comes to our specific niche, and then kind of who engages on those specific platforms? How do you like that?